The Samnite Wars were a series of three major conflicts fought between the Roman Republic and the Samnites, a powerful group of mountain tribes living in central and southern Italy. These wars occurred over almost 50 years from 343 BCE to 290 BCE, and they played a huge role in shaping the rise of Rome. Before the Samnite Wars, Rome was only one of many Italian powers, and its influence was mostly limited to central Italy. But by the end of the wars, Rome had become the strongest military force on the Italian peninsula. The victories changed Rome's political destiny and set the stage for its later expansion across Europe, North Africa, and the Mediterranean. Although we speak of the Samnite Wars as if they were a single long conflict, they are usually divided into three separate wars. Each war had different causes, different strategies, and different results, but all of them revolved around a simple issue. Rome and the Samnites wanted to control the same lands, especially the rich plains of Campania and the network of mountain roads that connected various parts of Italy. Understanding each war separately helps us see how Rome gradually learned from its mistakes and built a more effective army. Before the wars began, the Samnites were one of the most respected warrior peoples in Italy. They lived in the Apennine Mountains, which gave them natural protection and allowed them to train as tough, mobile fighters. They organized themselves in a league of four main tribes, and although they were not a single united kingdom, they often cooperated in times of danger. Their soldiers were skilled in guerrilla-style combat, using the mountains to their advantage. This made them very different from the Romans, who fought mainly on open ground in tight formations. Rome, on the other hand, was growing fast. It had defeated several neighboring Latin and Etruscan enemies, and had started to form alliances across central Italy. But the Samnites controlled land that Rome needed to expand southward. As both powers grew, their territories began to touch, and conflict became almost impossible to avoid. The region of Campania, with its wealthy cities and fertile farmland, became the most important prize. Whoever controlled Campania would have more food, more wealth, and more soldiers. When the city of Capua, the largest city in Campania, asked Rome for protection against the Samnites, Rome saw this as an opportunity to increase its influence. The Samnites saw it as a threat. This disagreement triggered the First Samnite War. The First Samnite War was the shortest and least important of the three wars, but it set the stage for the conflicts that followed. It began when the Samnites attacked the Sidicini, a smaller tribe near Campania. The Sidicini asked Capua for help, but Capua could not defend itself, so it appealed to Rome. This put Rome in a difficult position because the Samnites were technically Rome's allies at the time. But Rome wanted influence in Campania, and refusing Capua would have made Rome look weak to its other allies. Rome sent an army south, and the first battles went well for the Romans. They won several encounters, partly because they fought on open ground, which suited their style. But the war did not continue long. The Samnites were also fighting in other regions, and both sides saw advantages in peace. So in 341 BCE they agreed to a treaty. Rome kept influence in Campania, and the Samnites returned to their mountain lands. But the end of the war created new problems. Many of Rome's Latin allies were disappointed because Rome had grown more powerful and was treating them like second-class partners. This led to the Latin War, in which Rome defeated the Latin cities and imposed tighter control. By the time the Latin War ended, Rome was much strong enough that another conflict with the Samnites was almost certain. The Second Samnite War was the longest and the most dramatic of the three wars. It lasted more than 20 years and included one of the most famous Roman defeats in history, the humiliation at the Caudine Forks. The war began over control of Neapolis, modern Naples. Rome supported one political faction and the Samnites supported another. When fighting broke out, Rome moved to protect its interests, and the Samnites saw this as an invasion. At first, Rome was optimistic, but the Samnites had a huge advantage: the geography of their homeland. They lived in rugged mountains full of narrow passes. These passes were easy to defend and dangerous for large armies. In 321 BCE, Rome's confidence was shattered. A Roman army marched through a narrow pass near the town of Caudine. The Samnites blocked the exit and surrounded the entrance, trapping the Romans completely. With no water and no escape route, the Roman commanders had no choice but to surrender. The Samnite leader, Gaius Pontius, forced the Roman army to pass under a yoke made of spears, a symbolic act of total humiliation. This event, called the Battle of the Caudine Forks, became one of the darkest moments in Roman military history. Rome never forgot this defeat. Instead of giving up, the Romans reorganized their strategies. They built new roads, including the famous Via Appia, which allowed them to move troops more easily across Italy. They also reformed their army, making it more flexible and better able to fight in rough terrain. The Samnites continued to win some battles, but Rome was slow, patient, and persistent. By the later years of the Second Samnite War, Rome began turning the tide. They captured Samnite allies, built fortresses along the edges of Samnium, and created alliances with tribes who also feared Samnite power. The war ended in 304 BCE with a Roman victory, though the Samnites were still strong enough to fight again in the future. The Third Samnite War was the final and most important conflict. By this time, Rome had become the dominant power in central Italy, and the Samnites realized that they could not defeat Rome alone. They tried to build a coalition with the Etruscans, Umbrians, and some Gallic tribes in northern Italy. This created one of the most dangerous alliances Rome had ever faced. The war began when the Samnites attacked Lucanian allies of Rome. Rome responded quickly, and soon the fighting spread across much of Italy. The Samnite general, Gellius Egnatius, tried to bring all Rome's enemies together to strike at Rome itself, but the Romans moved faster than expected. They defeated the Samnites in several battles, and then turned north to face the Gauls and Etruscans. The most famous battle of the Third Samnite War was the Battle of Sentinum in 295 BCE. It was one of the largest battles ever fought in Italy up to that time. The Romans faced a combined army of Samnites and Gauls. At one point the Roman line almost broke, and one of the Roman consuls, Publius Decius Mus, performed a ritual sacrifice known as devotio, in which he charged into the enemy to inspire his troops. The Romans eventually won the battle, breaking the alliance and forcing each enemy to fight alone. After Sentinum, Roman victory became almost inevitable. By 290 BCE, the Samnites were exhausted. Their towns were captured, their farmland was ruined, and their allies had abandoned them. The Romans forced the Samnites to accept peace terms that effectively ended their independence. Although the Samnites continued to exist as a people, they were never again a threat to Rome. The Samnite Wars changed the history of Italy and set the foundation for Rome's future empire. There are several major reasons why these wars were so important. First, the wars forced Rome to improve its army. The early Roman legions were not well suited for mountain warfare. But after repeated defeats, Rome created a more flexible fighting formation, the Manipular Legion, which later became one of the most effective military systems in the ancient world. Second, Rome learned the importance of roads, fortresses, and infrastructure. By building permanent roads such as the Via Appia, Rome could move troops quickly across Italy. This network later allowed Rome to control its vast empire more easily. Third, the wars brought large parts of Italy under Roman influence. By defeating the Samnites and their allies, Rome became the unquestioned leader of the Italian peninsula. This unity was crucial when Rome later fought powerful foreign enemies like Carthage in the Punic Wars. Fourth, the wars proved that Rome had the determination to recover from disaster. The humiliation at the Caudine Forks could have destroyed a weaker nation's confidence. Instead, Rome used the defeat to reform, adapt, and grow stronger. Finally, the Samnite Wars showed that Rome was becoming more than a city-state. It was becoming a regional power with long-term goals, a disciplined army, and an ambitious political system. Without the lessons and victories of the Samnite Wars, Rome might never have become the great empire we remember today. The Samnite Wars were a long, difficult struggle between two tough and determined peoples. Over nearly 50 years, Rome and the Samnites fought for control of central and southern Italy. The wars included brilliant strategies, terrible defeats, impressive recoveries, and major changes in military organization. In the end, Rome's persistence, discipline, and political skill allowed it to win. The Samnites were eventually defeated, but their resistance shaped Rome's growth and taught the Romans how to become a true imperial power. By the time the wars ended, Rome had become the strongest force in Italy. The Samnite Wars prepared Rome for even bigger challenges in the future, and played a huge role in the creation of the Roman Empire. Even today, they are remembered as some of the most important conflicts in early Roman history.